Hey guys, so today thought I'd bring out two Cold War pistols, and they are both chambered at 9x18, known as Makarov. And the pistol on the left is a Russian Makarov. Now it's not a traditional, it's actually a commercial version that was built specifically for import here into the US. So it is actually a double stack, 9x18. So they didn't have those during the Cold War. The reason I chose to show this versus the standard Bulgarian, Russian, East German, etc. Makarov is it more closely compares to the gun on the right, which is the CZ82. And the reason for that is they're both double stacks. So it just makes more sense to compare both of them. So if you're looking for a traditional Makarov comparison against the CZ82, this video isn't for you. But I think these compare pretty well, and that's the reason I chose the commercial version here on the left. Now before I go into this video, both these guns have been cleared. They're both unloaded, and so let's go ahead and start. So for those who are not familiar with the 9x18 round, I want to go ahead and show a comparison here. The round on the left is .380. The round in the center is 9x18 Makarov, and the round on the right is actually 9x19 9mm Luger. So it's very, very similar in size to .380, and ballistics are very similar as well. It's not a bad round. It's not an excellent round. But it gets the job done, and it got the job done for the Soviet Union and its ally, or in its satellite states for a long time. So it's definitely capable. A lot of folks these days are choosing these guns as a concealed carry option. The main reason for that is the size of them is very good, capacity is not bad, and they're cheap. Both these guns can be found for less than $300. If you look around, maybe even less than that. So they are a good option. The only downfall for the round itself is it's fairly hard to find hollow point rounds in 9mm Makarov. I've never seen them locally. I think you'd have to order them online. I know Hornady makes some. I'm sure there's other manufacturers out there that produce rounds for them as well. But that's kind of a downfall, so it's kind of hard to find ammunition. Even standard 9mm Makarov is not super common, but it can be found, and it's not very expensive. It runs usually around the same price as a standard 9x19 gun. So let's go ahead and look at these guns and kind of the similarities and differences. Both of these guns are a fixed barrel blowback design. Both very similar sizes. There's just a couple little differences. The first is the safety on the standard Makarovs is a push up to go on safe, and now you will have safe. The trigger is deactivated. You pull down, and you're going to get your standard double action. This is a double action, single action. Both guns are. Let's go ahead and put it in single action. Now, if you put the safety on in single action on a standard Makarov, it will also act as a decocker. That's a big difference, and I'll show you why on the CZ82. So let's go ahead and pull that safety off, put it into single action. See the single action trigger on this? You have a little bit of take up, then it breaks. It's not a bad trigger. It's not the greatest trigger in the world. Neither of these guns has a great trigger. They're both decent. They're both combat style triggers, and they both work well. Can't really complain. The standard Makarovs and even this commercial are really only single-sided. So they're meant for right-handed shooters. All of the safety is on the side. Your magazine release is a heel release. And for those who are not familiar with how a heel release works, you've got to press down here, or really press back, and then your magazine will be released. Very difficult to do. I can only imagine trying to release it when in actual combat. You'd have to practice it a lot. I am not good at it. I'm used to the traditional thumb release that we see nowadays on pretty much any guns, any handguns out there. So it'd take a lot of practice. So that's something that you would have to work on if you chose this as a carry gun or chose this just as a gun you would want to carry at any time. It'd take a lot of practice. The grip is fairly large on this gun, especially for 12+1. These guns have either 10 or 12 round magazines for them. Not super easy to find. They didn't import a lot of them. The magazine I actually have here is a piece of crap. This is a Pro Mag magazine. I don't have the original for this gun. Unfortunately, it only came with this one. This mag sucks. You can't get more than a few rounds through it without jamming. So, even though this gun shoots well, it's limited by the magazines. And the original 12 round magazines are like $50 now. So, that's a concern for me. Overall, it's a great gun. It shoots well. The sights are okay. It's an adjustable rear sight and a small front post sight. They're not the best. They're very difficult to pick up, especially in low light conditions, but they work. It's really, truly the definition of a combat style handgun. Now let's look at the CZ82. So what makes the CZ82 a little different? I talked about the safety. So you cannot engage the safety in double action on the CZ. So your double action, if you have a holster this way, that's your only safety, which I don't mind. I'm used to decocked pistols. I'm used to just standard double action. The double action's heavy enough. It's sitting around probably 10 pounds, 11 pounds. It's going to be safe without the safety on. Now your single action, you can now engage the safety, and that is ambi, as well as your magazine release is a traditional thumb release, and it's ambi as well. So this is truly an ambidextrous gun, and would suit pretty much anyone. Now when you have the safety engaged in the single action, it's going to be basically cocked and locked like a traditional 1911 or any other single action only guns. It's kind of weird that you would have this style safety on a double action single action, but I don't fault it. I would have no concerns about carrying it cocked and locked, or carrying it with basically the hammer down in double action. Either way works fine for me. I have no qualms about that. This gun is also a 12+1 capacity, so you're getting the same capacity in both guns. This gun's actually a little bit heavier. I want to say this gun's around 2 pounds, and I think the commercial Makarov comes in a couple ounces lighter than that, so that may be a concern for some. I find the sights on this a little better. I actually painted the front dot on my other Makarov, or my other CZ82. I don't think I did on this one, but they're a little bit better. Most people paint those to make it a little easier to pick up. Overall, the trigger is actually better on the CZ82. See if I can show you this. Double action's pretty smooth. Your single action's really good, actually. For a combat handgun, it's not bad. You're looking at around 11 pounds, 10, 11 pounds for your double action. Around 5 pounds for your single action. Not bad. The Makarov, the commercial version, is actually a little bit heavier than that on both. I want to say close to probably 13, 14 pounds for your double action, and probably close to 7.5, 8 pounds for your single action. So that's a concern for some people. You know, can you get used to it? Yeah. Overall, both these guns are very similar. They do basically the same thing, same type of accuracy for me. I would personally give my nod to the CZ82. It's a much more recent design than the standard Makarov. The Makarovs came into, really the design came into effect in really the early 60s, even late 50s maybe. The 82 didn't come out until 82. And I just think the Czechs put together a better gun. They kind of incorporated some better features, especially this magazine release. It's much easier to control, and the grip feels a little bit better in the hand. Now a standard Makarov would have a much better grip than even this because it's a single stack, but then you lose capacity. So overall, I think the CZ82 is a better handgun, but for $300, you really can't go wrong with either. They're both just a joy to shoot, and might as well pick them up now while you still can, because who knows in the future if they'll even be around. Thanks as always for watching the video, and put any comments or questions you have below and I'll try to answer them. Thanks guys.